Welcome to Dynamic Coast, Scotland's coastal change assessment. This is a quick video tutorial on how to use the web maps. You've clearly accessed the site by going to dynamiccoast.com, and this is the home page, what it looks like. There's a series of tabs running along the top that give you different pieces of information, latest news, information about the project, the methods and the team. If you click on the Outputs button, you'll see a series of reports that are available for download, information about different mapping datasets that are available, three-dimensional models in the form of videos, but also virtual reality models that you can click and play with and investigate. There's also a series of presentations that have been given. If you click on this link, it'll open up that presentation that was given, or the information, a workshop event, and so on and so forth. We'll come onto the web maps in a second. There's a tab for videos, much like this video here. There's also a link to other information and a contacts page. We'll be producing an FAQ page which will also go in here as well to give you information on frequently asked questions and also how to interpret the maps. Lastly, the contacts page. If you want to get in touch with us, please email the following email address. You'll see that there's a series of logos at the bottom of the page. These are members of the steering committee. This is a Scottish Government project undertaken by the University of Glasgow. The other organisations that you see here have been instrumental in the shaping and the work that's gone on over the last 2 or 3 years. So if we go back to the front page of the website, then you can either click on the web maps here or go to the tab here. It goes to the same place. You'll have two options. You look at the standard web map with the green button or an advanced web map here. Basically, the advanced map's just got a few more layers, but most people should be served relatively well with the standard web map. Please read and consider the limitations before accepting. A web page will then open up which has maps in it, and other tools will start to load in. There is also a welcome screen that should appear, and that'll give you additional information as far as what's displayed on the maps. So you can see that 3 different shorelines are shown for the soft and erodible coast. The most recent is the modern shoreline. It's our most up-to-date and recent shoreline. The 1970 shoreline is taken from the Ordnance Survey mapping, which was surveyed between 1970 and the 1990s. The 1890 shoreline, over 120 or so years, is sourced from the Ordnance Survey 2nd edition mapping, and those surveys were carried out between 1890 and 1920. Change mapping is also shown, and I'll explain that in a minute. That quantifies the change between the different time periods. You can click on each of the lines, which gives you more information. Again, please click on the links to get more tips and guidance as far as how to interpret the maps. If you press OK, then you can get into the maps themselves. So, basic navigation then, you can zoom in and out using the plus and minus buttons in the top left hand corner. You can type an address or a place name in here and it should take you to it. This is a measurement tool, a sharing tool, and a swipe tool, which we'll come to in a second. You'll also note that in the top right hand corner you have a legend button. So if you click that, it will give you a clue as to what each of the lines are that is displayed. When you change the lines that are displayed, this will update automatically. So this tells you that you have 2 lines on the map, which appears to be the case. We have the 1890 shoreline, which is a black dotted line, and the 1970 shoreline, which is an orange line here. You can, as I said, you can zoom in and out here. You can also zoom in by double tapping with the double clicking and zooming in. If you have a wheel on your mouse, then you can roll that back and forward and you'll zoom in and out as well. If you're particularly keen on zooming into a small area, if you use the shift button, hold the shift down, click with the mouse and drag into that area, a small box, a red box will appear, and if you let go of all the buttons, then you'll zoom into that location there. As I said, you can click on the line to get more information. So this line here is the 1890 shoreline, surveyed in 1893. It's in cell 2, which we'll come to in a minute. Compared with the 1970s shoreline, which actually dates from, which was surveyed in 1981 for this section of coast. So you can see there's a difference between the two positions of the shoreline. If you want to measure that, you can use the measuring tool here. You can start measuring with a single click and double click to end, and it'll tell you that it's been 248 meters of change between the two time periods. If we bring in some other data sets, you'll then see that we can also bring in, for example, the modern shoreline, and that is shown here in a pink dotted line. Again, if you click on that, it'll give you additional information as well. So that says that it was surveyed in 2013, and it was actually captured as part of a phase 2 LiDAR survey. You can also click on, so you turn these on and off by simply ticking or unticking the box. We have the change lines here, change 1970 to modern and change 1890 to 1970, and that is a different coloured line. So it's got greens in some areas, yellows in other areas, and reds in other areas too. Again, if you bring up the legend, you'll actually see that explained much more clearly. So you can see where the coastline has grown out between 1970 and the modern data set. You can see that it's grown out, it's accreted. We've had gains in this area here, and it's a good strong green colour, which means it's in this top bracket here, which means we've had more than 30 meters of change. That slightly paler green here is in the next category down, which is between 20 and 30 meters of gain. If you actually click on the line, it also summarizes that information for you as well. So it says between 1981 and 2013 there's been 102 meters of accretion gains, and that's at an annual rate of 3.2 meters per year. Now obviously that may not have been a completely uniform growth between those two time periods. It may have stopped for large periods of time between the two, but we obviously are taking the 3 time periods and they're giving us impression. We don't know what happens between those lines or actually subsequent to 2013. So that's what's shown here. We can also, you can zoom to a different place and you can see that actually there's been an enormous amount of retreat in this area here and then re-advance following the 1970s. So that's how you can move around. Again, there's other things in here as well that you can have a look at. We mentioned coastal cells earlier on. If we zoom out, then you'll see that the coastal cells are marked. So this is our way as specialists of dividing up the coast into different individual units that behave together. So things that happen if someone builds a seawall or dredges a section or spills sediment onto the coast within cell 1, then that should be relatively self-contained and it won't affect anything in cell 2, for example. So there are 11 coastal cells around Scotland, and they're shown within this layer here. Cell 1 is the Firth of Forth, Cell 2 runs up the east coast, Cell 3, when it does come in, runs along the Moray Firth, Cell 4 is the north coast, and similarly down the west coast is 5, into the Clyde is 6. I'm going a bit quick for the map, so that's 6 coming in there. Cell 7 is the south coast and the Solway Firth, and you'll see that come in a second as the internet catches up. So that's the cells, and there's an individual cells report which we'll come to in a second that talks through those as well. There's also a layer here which you may find quite useful. So that's where are each of the local authorities, and do they have a shoreline management plan? Now, the shoreline management plan is a document that investigates the historical changes to the coastline, and then the local authority as the coastal protection authority, they then outline what their policy is for that area, whether they're going to build and maintain defences, or whether they're going to let the coastline change entirely naturally. So you can see this area here in Angus has a shoreline management plan, yes, and there's more information. So if you click on that link and bring it up in a new tab, then eventually that'll take you to Angus's shoreline management plan. So there's obviously one for Fife here, and also East Lothian has one too. Further to that, there's a data set on different coastal types. So we've gone in and had a look and worked out whether we can classify the coast into different categories. So do we have soft, artificial, so Dundee, there's a seawall at Dundee, so it's an artificial shore, and mixed and hard in this area here. So it's the soft shore, the yellow bits, that we've done our change mapping on, because obviously there's little point looking at whether the shoreline has moved on a rocky shore, because it's very unlikely to. You can click a button here for site summaries, and that gives you again a little bit of information. So that tells you that St Andrews West Sands is on, it says cell 2, it's in Fife, and it's site number 15. If you click on that and open it up in a new tab, it'll come to a series of reports, and if you go to cell 2, which was mentioned for St Andrews, then you'll load in a report. There's a series of these reports, one for each cell. This is the cell 2 report, and it gives you a description of cell 2 and how it's changed through time. So if we zoom through, then you can see that there's a section in here for St Andrews, site 15, St Andrews West Sand. So the discussion about historic change, a map showing that, and so forth. So plenty of information around the country, and when you zoom out you see that these dots which account for the significant changes, there's about 140 or so of these little summaries which are available through the website. It's worth just considering for a second some of these layers here. So if you're interested just in the areas that have accreted, then you can see these shown in the green lines here. You'll notice the word significant though, and that's quite important. So these are the areas where we're certain that the changes are real and not due to measurement error or surveying error or methodological errors within the process. So in these areas, the change between the two lines is greater than 10 metres. Similarly, if you're interested in only looking at where the coastline has eroded, then you can see this is where the significant erosion has happened. So you can zoom in to this area here, and you can see that we only have red and orange lines. We don't, if we compare that with the change data, which is the full selection, you can see that the change has these yellow bits. So in that area there, we actually have got less than 10 metres of change. Now that could be real change, but we can't be certain of that because of the width of the lines on the maps. So it's not possible to be certain that that 2.4 metres of retreat is real. It could simply be due to the surveying error. So where we have erosion happening and we're certain that it's real, then you can see that's shown in a bold red line. One of the other layers that we have here is called Future Look 2050. And it's a data set that's been developed which basically takes the recent rates of change and project it forward. So if in this instance here we zoom in, we can see we'll turn it off just for a second to explain things to you. If we have the 1970 shoreline, which actually in this location was surveyed in 1995, and the modern shoreline, you can see there's quite a difference there. If you show the change line, you'll see that depicted. So that's a big bold red colour. So it's more than 30 metres of erosion, which is an annual rate of 1.8 metres per year. What this Future Look dataset has done is if we roll that annual rate of erosion forward from 2014 in this instance to 2050, then we'll erode that much distance of coast. So the mean high water springs position was here in 1995, is here in 2014, and would be at this line here in 2050. What we've done is we've then added on top of that, further inland, a 10-metre buffer. And then further beyond that, an additional 50-metre buffer. So this, if everything stays the same, would be where the position of mean high water springs would be in 2050. There's a 10-metre buffer called the erosion influence, and then the erosion vicinity is the next area in the palest of the pink colours. Please be absolutely clear, these aren't precise predictions. These are indicative and simply used to start the consideration of what may happen into the future. It cannot be used for property level scale investigations. If you want to have a very precise prediction of where the coastline will be at some point in time in the future, these data sets are not detailed enough to inform that. Few data sets are, but these certainly cannot be used for that. This is a national level assessment to provide strategic overview of risks, not to provide detailed assessments. There's more information on this within the reports, so please have a look. So you can pan around the country and see the lines appearing as you go round, and get an impression how the coastline has changed between different time periods, and how that all fits together. And again, there's obviously extra information, as we said, as far as the site summaries, but also, just as importantly, there's information here in different areas. If there is supplementary information as far as shoreline management plans, which outline the management or the policy statement from the local authority, then you can gain access to it as well. As we said earlier on, please have a look. There's plenty of information on the website, a series of reports as well, helpful guides and tutorials to try and ensure that you are able to use and interpret correctly the information that's being made available here. If you have any questions and they're not answered by the materials provided, then please, as we said, get in touch with a link here. Thank you very much indeed.